Thank you for staying tuned. Now, in many ways, the Nigerian economic outlook for 2019 is said to be dependent on the outcome of the general elections and the likely impact it would have on the overall economy and financial markets. In its annual economic and financial market outlook 2019, AfriInvest West Africa Limited observed that the widespread economic challenges that induced a recession in 2016 still persist and would be exposed by any substantial economic pressure. Now, the 70-page report further highlighted that since the 2015 elections, growth has persisted below the long-term growth rate of 6 to 7%. Unemployment rate has more than doubled from 9.9% in the third quarter of 2015 to 23.1% in third quarter of 2018, and insecurity has spread across all regions of the country. Consequently, AfriInvest views the country as being on the precipice because this point in history will determine the next cycle and could very well lock the country into a spiral of weak or contracting growth or lay the foundations upon which new growth levels will be built. And joining me now to dissect this report is the Group Managing Director of AfriInvest West Africa, Mr. Ike Chuki. Good morning, Mr. Chuka. Thank you very much for joining on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Before we dwell into this report by you, the inflation numbers just came out. Were you disappointed when you saw that number? 11.44%. Still going higher.
I was quite surprised. I think the impact of the insecurity, particularly in our farming regions, has now begun to creep into food inflation.
And that's exactly what is even driving the index.
You see that's the highest increase amongst all the components, sub-components of inflation. So that's to be expected. And obviously, because of the political cycle, there's more money being thrown into the system. And as much as the CBN may try to mop up through their OMO actions, politicians are busy, spending money, and that also can contribute itself, to the inflation effect.
All right, thank you. All right, looking at this report, you titled it "On the Precipice."
Yes.
Quite an interesting title there, meaning a very steep cliff.
Yes.
What informed that title?
I think we see the economy to be on the edge, so on the precipice, and any small push. Any small thing could actually push off the cliff. And I think because in this environment with all the political noise, we're not really focusing enough on the real thing that impacts Nigerians, which is the economy. And you still find the economy is challenged by all the issues that we identified in 2016 as a result of the recession. There's widespread insecurity, as I mentioned. The same insecurity is affecting most of our farming regions. The growth you see in the system is still anemic. Remember our sort of previous run rate growth was about 6 to 7%. We are climbing out of the recession of 2016. We expect that we may end 2018 at 1.9%. Again, while that is positive, it's still way below our population growth of 3%. So that means every year Nigerians are poorer on the average.
Wow. Yeah, it is interesting that you said that elections offer opportunity, for Nigerians to press the reset button, as you put it, and then, of course, put the country back on track. The presidential election is only just few weeks, away. What are your expectations?
Well, we're thinking of the elections from two scenarios. The first scenario is that there's a free and fair election and everybody reasonably expects that this is what has happened and the incumbent wins. In that scenario, we'd expect that things will continue as normal. And, of course, the economic system we have today isn't quite doing enough for most Nigerians. It's too much money going to recurrent and not enough really trickling down into the real sector. And there's no material reform in the economy, despite what has been said in the economic recovery and growth plans. But the second scenario is where the elections turn out to be not acceptable to most Nigerians and is regarded as not free and fair, and which may then trigger additional insecurity. I mean, we have already massive insecurity in the country. Imagine triggering widespread additional insecurity as a consequence of the election. Now, that would have a huge knock-on effect on investment climate. We'll think that even the last remaining investors who have been resilient will run, And of course, this will dampen the economy further and lead to us, finding ourselves in a difficult position. In that scenario, we think we may fall off the cliff. Hence, the title On the Precipice.
Well, it's left for the politicians,
Yes.
or those in charge of the economy to really know whether they want the economy to fall off the cliff or perhaps do better.
It's the politicians that are, that are going to create the problem. So if we're able to run through a free and fair election, of course, today we think it's a two-horse race between the incumbent party, APC, and the PDP. But yeah, the election could throw up some surprises. Because of the widespread insecurity, most Nigerians in the rural areas have been affected. Usually you would think that most Nigerians in rural areas can live their life without Abuja and Lagos, because they can, stay in a farm, grow, cultivate their crops, and feed their family, put their kids through school. But with insecurity and people being moved off their land, they're finding themselves being refugees in their own country. These people have to have a voice, and I think that can create, different results than most people are expecting. But I think that the incumbent, clearly, with the advantage of incumbency, has the upper hand so far. But we don't know what the election results will throw up.
Sure.